Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Shalom, family. It's good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. Oh boy, I don't know what is worse, y'all. America losing this war or seeing just how lackadaisical this country is when it comes down to security. It is time for people, especially you MAGAs, to stop running around talking about this nation. We're number one and all this crap. No, we're not. No, we're not. You know, and I even heard this morning because, China's been trying to get at Taiwan and they backed off because Taiwan had the backing of the US. But now that they said China is sitting back and observing the war, and they're seeing how poorly America is doing, saying that China is now has plans to go forward to go in there after Taiwan because they're seeing that they don't have to fear the US. They're seeing they don't have to fear nothing about the US. And that is the truth. A lot of countries are seeing America is a paper lion. She's all bark and no bite. And they see this. So I want to show you an article that came out yesterday, and we'll get into the video shortly. Okay, so this came out in the Washington Post. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you. All right, y'all. So this article came out in the Washington Post yesterday. Now, Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio, because Donald Trump has a cabinet full of cowards. They're afraid to live on the US economy because they're in fear of being attacked. So I have never seen this before in my life. His administration all are hiding out on military bases. So Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth are at Fort Leslie J. McNair. That's where they are staying. Well, for the past 10 days, there have been drones, a bunch of drones flying over this particular base. Now, my question is 10 days, why didn't the military knock these things down? Okay, why didn't they knock them down if there's a great concern? Because they said they had to lock down US bases because of these drones all showing up. All right, so if you're disturbed and you got your cabinet there, why didn't you just knock these drones down? Why are you allowing them to circle the base for 10 days straight? And they said they're up there for hours, y'all. Hours just circling around the base. So why haven't you done anything about it? That's my question. The US is turning out to be full of crap. They are. I know a lot of countries are observing and know they never will fear America ever again. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. So, Iran said they're going to make good. And see, I know why they're raising this fear. Iran said they are going to make good on attacks. And yes, they're going to come to mainland America to attack. And so that's another reason why they have concerns. Now, here's where it gets worse, y'all. And if you get a chance, read this article. 4 drones, listen to me now. 4 drones have been stolen off of a military base in Kentucky. How the hell do you steal a drone? 4 of them. Well, 4 are missing. Again, who's in charge of security on these bases? Who's in charge? Wow. Yeah, drones. Drones are missing, y'all. 4 of them. 4 drones. How the hell do you lose track of 4 drones? So, anyway, the US and the military that they boasted about for a long time is turning out to be full of crap. So, I mean, this is just ridiculous. This is beyond shameful right here. It really truly is. All right, so let's get to yeah. All right, let's get to these videos that I have lined up for you. Okay, one more time, everybody. Give me those ones if you can see my screen. Give me ones. 4. Yeah. I mean, I know things get stolen from the military. Y'all weapons get stolen all the time. And I think a lot of these soldiers be selling stuff to the enemy. You know, espionage has always been a problem. Thank you, y'all.
This is a first. An Iranian-backed militant group in Iraq breached the security of the US Victoria base near the Baghdad International Airport, flying a FPV drone and seemingly around the base unchallenged. Now, it's unclear when this was filmed. It appears there's no one around in the base. Possibly everyone's taking shelter. And there is no air defense to be visibly seen trying to take this drone out. It's going around the entire base looking for a target. As you can see, the drone going around the base looking for areas to possibly strike. Here we see a fuel truck down there. It goes towards these areas looking to see what's in these covered buildings. Now, it's also good to report that CENTCOM has not mentioned any injuries, any damage to this base as of this time connected with this video. So it's unclear if any damage was actually done. You do see this drone going around looking for targets, and then it does eventually strike a target, but it's unclear what is in the building to which it strikes. Here we see it going in, and that's the building it hits. ABC's.
So, you know what that tells you? It doesn't matter if it's here at a base on US soil or at a US base overseas, they seem to have a major inability to stop these drones when they are flying above. No drone should get past a certain point on your base. No drone. If you're on top of your game, none of these drones should get but so far. How did that drone was flying around for a while before it targeted a building and slammed into it? That should never have happened. So, what the hell is the military doing? But y'all, I want y'all to remember this is Pete Hegseth's military. He is the head of this. And he's at a military base where there's unknown drones flying around. That should say a lot about who's running what they call the Department of War. Look who's running it. And you mean to tell me y'all don't have nothing in place to stop a drone? When it comes, first of all, it should be illegal. Even if it's one here in the US, it should be illegal for any drones to be near or around a military base. And if it is spotted, it should be knocked down immediately. Wow. I mean, just looking at that footage is astonishing. That thing was flying all over the place, and not one person on that base did a thing to stop it. Woo, y'all. Let's go on.
Reporting that Iran could strike from inside the US as authorities warn Americans to prepare for these two likely forms of attack. Both the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security have moved to war footing after credible intelligence suggested that Iran has prepared multiple different ways to retaliate against Americans from within the US mainland. First, authorities claim that they have intercepted encrypted communications sent through a secret Iranian channel allegedly intended to deliver instructions to sleeper cell operatives embedded in the United States, with Trump now confirming that while such agents do exist, the government believes it knows the identity of most of them and are actively monitoring their activities. Second, the FBI has issued a region-wide warning that unidentified ships in the Pacific Ocean off the west coast of the US could be used by Iran to launch long-range attack drones on targets in California, causing Governor Newsom to clarify that while he does not believe there is an imminent threat, state authorities are still actively preparing out of caution.
Pay attention and listen, because the war with Iran has officially entered U.S. soil. Look, because Iranian drones are now being spotted over the base where Mark Rubio and Pete Hegseth live, which Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense of the United States. If Iran takes out the Secretary of Defense, do you understand the type of trouble the United States is going to be in?
Major news happening now this evening as several unidentified.
None, because the dude don't know what the hell he's doing. U.S. ain't going to be in any more trouble with or without Pete Hegseth. He really is insignificant as far as I'm concerned. That dude don't know what the hell he's doing. And number two, y'all, Iran already said they're going to take Donald Trump and his people out. They did that to them. They took their supreme leader out and other people that were part of their Iranian cabinet. They took them out. So, of course, they're going to look to take Donald Trump and his cabinet out. You know, one thing I can tell you, since this Iranian war began, Iran ain't playing. Iran ain't playing. The only one playing is Donald Trump on TV talking about they obliterated everything. See, Donald Trump is playing like a little kid. Iran is acting like an adult. So far, every time they tell you they gonna do something, they do it. So far, they have never said one thing they were going to do, and they did not do it. Okay? That's the difference between Donald Trump and Iran. When Iran say, no, we coming for your people and we going to get them on your soil, they mean that stuff. They mean it. Meantime, Donald Trump is telling everybody he won and he took them all out and he did this, and he's contradicting himself. How at one instance you took everybody out, you obliterated them, and then on the other hand, you begging for help. Well, if you annihilated everything like you claim, why would you need help? You know what I mean? See, he is the one playing like a little kid. But you can best believe if Iran said, "We gonna get you on your soil," they mean it. And it will happen. Period. Let's go on.
Identified drones have just flown over a military base in Washington, D.C., where both Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio are currently living. This is according to the Washington Post, and signals that Iranian retaliation could extend possibly to U.S. soil. This takes things to a whole new level. Now, they're saying they don't know where these drones originated from just yet, but this prompted an emergency meeting at the White House. Now, these drones were spotted over the Leslie J. McNair Fort in Washington. Just this week, Joint Base McGuire-Dix, Lakehurst in New Jersey, and MacDill Air Force Base in Florida raised their force protection level to Charlie, which is a designation that means the commander has intelligence that an attack or danger is possible. That's the next highest level before the highest, which is Delta. And that means an attack has occurred or is anticipated to occur. Officials are weighing relocating both Hegseth and Rubio somewhere else amidst this sighting of these unknown drones. Fort McNair, where these drones were spotted, also houses some of the Pentagon's most senior military officials. It wouldn't be that surprising if Iran retaliated in this sort of way, considering the United States and Israel have been taking out their senior leadership since the beginning of this war.
Now, one thing I do want to say, in the beginning of the war, I think like the few days after the bombing began, China and Russia have been giving Iran maps to every single U.S. military base and every facility that they got overseas and here. It is not a coincidence that these drones have showed up where Trump's cabinet is and the senior officials. They know. And I believe Russia and China were the ones that provided that information, because I heard that like days after the bombing, that China and Russia met with Iran. And during that meeting, they gave them maps of everything about the U.S., everything overseas and over here. So they would know exactly how to navigate to each and every one of these bases here. And they would know where every single federal building, the White House, they know where all this stuff is, y'all. They know. So, no, it's not a coincidence. So you hear they're moving. They probably already moved Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth somewhere else, because they're fearing that those are Iranian drones. That's what they're in fear of. Now, being that nobody really got one of the drones, they don't know. But these drones appeared out of nowhere 10 days ago. And they've been circling the base for 10 straight days, y'all. 10 straight days. They said it goes on for hours and hours, just these drones just circling. And no, I do not believe that's a coincidence. And I would not be shocked if we're just being told about this one base, but there are other bases this stuff is happening at as well.
Up until just last night. So guys, keep staying in touch. Like, share, spread the word, comment what you think, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
So y'all think we stupid, huh? Y'all think we just dumb? Really? Really? You telling me two people got on an army base and stole 4 military drones? Two people got on an army base and stole 4 drones. Drones. Who's writing this season? It's not, we don't believe it. It's unbelievable. This is bad. This is bad writing. 0 out of 10. Just no creativity. Just none.
This may be one of the most shocking developments in modern naval warfare. Reports are emerging that the USS Abraham Lincoln.
And why is the award so low? $5,000. 4 military drones are missing. And they want you to step forward so they can give you $5,000. Let me just put it to you this way. They ain't never getting them drones back, y'all. They are never, ever, ever getting those drones back. By now, those drones can be overseas somewhere. They don't know. They don't even have to be on U.S. soil by now. You know how easy it would, if it was easy for them to walk in there and walk out with 4 military drones, it's probably easy for them to put them on a ship or on a plane and get them overseas somewhere. You ain't gonna never see them drones again.
Lincoln, one of the United States Navy's most powerful aircraft carriers, has been struck during combat operations. For decades, American aircraft carriers have been viewed as nearly untouchable symbols of U.S. military dominance. They represent the ability of the United States to project power anywhere in the world, often thousands of kilometers away from its own shores. Hearing that one of these massive warships may have been hit immediately raises serious questions. Military analysts, defense officials, and governments around the world are now trying to understand what exactly happened and what it might mean for the future of global naval warfare. For generations, the aircraft carrier has stood at the very center of American military strategy. These ships are not simply large vessels sailing through the ocean. They function as floating air bases capable of launching fighter jets, reconnaissance aircraft, and strike missions wherever they are needed. With an air wing on board and a powerful escort fleet surrounding it, a carrier strike group can influence conflicts far beyond American territory. This ability allows the United States to respond quickly to international crises, protect allies, and maintain a military presence in some of the most strategically sensitive regions of the world. When an American carrier enters a contested area, it sends a powerful signal that the United States is ready to act if necessary. The reports involving the USS Abraham Lincoln are especially significant because American supercarriers have not been successfully struck in combat in the modern era. Since the end of World War II, the United States has operated its carrier fleet with the assumption that advanced defensive systems would keep these ships protected from most threats. Over the past 70 years, aircraft carriers have sailed into some of the most dangerous regions on the planet while remaining remarkably secure. Their massive size, advanced radar networks, escort warships, and combat aircraft created a defensive shield that many believed made them nearly impossible to hit. Because of that long-standing belief, even the possibility that a carrier has been successfully targeted is sending shockwaves through defense communities across the globe. Analysts are examining the early reports carefully, trying to determine whether the strike was successful, how it occurred, and what technologies were involved. The aircraft carrier is not just another warship. It represents the centerpiece of American military power at sea. If a ship like the USS Abraham Lincoln can be struck despite its defenses, it may force military planners to rethink some of the core assumptions that have shaped naval strategy for decades. To fully understand why this development matters so much, it is important to understand what an aircraft carrier represents in modern warfare. A carrier is essentially a mobile military base capable of conducting sustained air operations in almost any part of the world. Fighter jets can launch directly from its deck, carry out missions hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away, and return to the ship afterward. Surveillance aircraft monitor large areas of ocean and airspace, while helicopters support anti-submarine operations and search and rescue missions. Combined with its escort ships, a carrier strike group becomes a powerful and flexible military tool capable of shaping events far from American soil. Today, the United States operates 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. This number alone demonstrates the importance Washington places on carrier-based power projection. In fact, the United States possesses more operational carriers than the rest of the world's navies combined. These ships allow American forces to maintain a continuous presence in strategic regions such as the Pacific Ocean, the Middle East, and parts of Europe. When tensions rise somewhere in the world, it is often a carrier strike group that arrives first to demonstrate American commitment and readiness. Beyond their military capabilities, aircraft carriers also play an important political role. For many allied nations, the arrival of a U.S. carrier group represents a powerful symbol of support and protection. The presence of such a large and capable warship signals that the United States is willing to stand behind its partners during times of crisis. Because of this, the reputation of aircraft carriers as nearly invulnerable platforms.
So I just want to talk about this mission drone off the military base, right? So all the content I've seen about this with the people in the military talking about how now you just can't up and take something off a base, and not have nobody know how it happened. Now, we seen before, they got these little clicks and stuff that on the military bases, but the only things I've seen about people taking stuff off bases came from these, the Army Reserves. They got their little cliques and stuff, and they were in gangs outside of work, and then they was stealing munitions and weapons and stuff, and giving them, to the gangs outside of, that were outside of the military. But that's the Army Reserve. That's a different type of, most is a different type of base, different types of security and stuff like that. But a drone that's actually on a military base, they have heavy security. It's you're not just gonna go in there and taking a drive off, especially after 9/11, where you need IDs upon IDs, right? And it reminded me of when I was at Fort Wainwright, and it's kind of a funny story, but I was at Fort Wainwright, and I don't know why we had these type of Humvees, but we had the soft top Humvees. We didn't have a hard top Humvee, which makes no sense in Alaska. We had soft tops, right? And the weather there can get pretty cold, needless to say. So my friend lost his weapon. We had just came back from a field exercise, and he swore up and down that he had it when he left. Other people said that he had it when we left, because we did most of our military exercises. There's about, I want to say 4 or 5 military bases in Alaska. That was at Fort Wainwright. That was the biggest one. And then you got like Fort Greeley. No, so I was at Fort Richardson. You got Fort Richardson, then you got Elmendorf, which was attached to Richardson, and then you got Fort Wainwright. Fort Wainwright and Fort Greeley were way up in Alaska. They weren't on the other end. They were like closer to the middle. It took about 9 hours to get to Greeley driving. And Fort Wainwright would probably been like 2 or 3 hours driving. But I think we were coming from Fort Greeley. So when we got back to Fort Richardson, he was like, got to do a weapons check, y'all. We got to do a weapons check, make sure you got all your weapons and stuff like that. That's very serious. The military take, their logistics, their weapons, their vehicles and stuff very seriously. When we fly, we can't fly with regular civilians, because we always have to have our weapons with us. So when we fly, we have our own airplanes and stuff to fly with. And because we was a big unit, we had, I think they got like a a Boeing. What's the I can't remember. I don't. Is it a 737? It's the one with the 2 aisles. It's got 3 rows of seatings. So we had that because we had to have our weapons with us. I had a 203. That shit was tight. Heavy. Didn't like shooting it when we went out. I would not load it. I kept all the ammunition in my rucksack or something like that. Then dump it in the grass when we leave it because them weapons is a pain in the ass to clean. And I ain't want to do that. So never loaded my weapon with no ammunition. They was blanks anyway when we do those type of field exercises. They blanks. And the blanks is worse. The blanks is worse than regular ammunition because they dirtier. But anyway, we got back and he could not find his weapon. When I tell you put that whole base on lockdown, they put that whole base on lockdown. They checked every vehicle going in and out. They checked buildings, everything. We could not go nowhere. Nobody could go anywhere until that weapon was found. That's how seriously they take it. And the funny part of it is the the weapon was there the whole time. The weapon was no more than 3 feet away from him the whole time. What the fool did was
officials say they have detected unidentified drones flying over a Washington Army base.
United States officials detected drones over the base where Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth live in D.C., which raises major security concerns. This caused lockdowns at the U.S. base, and it resulted in a global security alert that is kind of concerning about possibly Iranian retaliation. Multiple drones were spotted over Fort Leslie J. McNair on a single night in the last 10 days, according to an official who spoke with the Washington Post, which is the exclusive person who's reporting this story, or paper. The drone sightings come as the U.S. has had major security alerts for overseas diplomatic posts due to the fact that Iran has been targeting our embassies and other places that U.S. people are. Due to the drones over Fort McNair, officials did weigh relocating Rubio and Hegseth, but they may not have moved. Here is the fort where you can see these are not drones, these are helicopters.
Our own government really trying to get us to buy into this war. They're setting it up. They're lining us up. It's like they're trying different things before they attack us and then blame it on Iran. The story about attacking California, they found out that people didn't really believe that. Not even stupid MAGA gonna believe that we're gonna sit and watch missiles come across the Pacific and not do nothing about it. All right. So we need something more believable. So they come up with this. Try to sneak onto a military post and see what happens to you. Swiss cheese. Swiss cheese, you won't even make the news. So they expect people to believe a drone got stolen from a base. This don't even say one, it says 4 Army drone systems. Now this event supposedly happened last year. They're just now telling us. Why is that? They don't care about sacrificing people to get what they want. It's been the play. Stay out of big gatherings.
So y'all, yeah, it's about to get crazy. I think we're going to have a crazy, crazy behind summer. And, Donald Trump, all this proves is this country is not ready for any attacks on U.S. soil. If you can't protect your military base from drones getting stolen, and you can't keep people safe because drones are circling in the sky, then I would say mainland USA is an easy target. Maybe you should have focused on making your military bases stronger and secure, but you came in office eliminating people, eliminating generals, eliminating Black soldiers, eliminating just all kinds of people from the military. So now you got a more watered down military dealing with a really high charge situation over there in the Middle East. Look, We already know your victory days are done, but y'all really know how to drop the damn ball. For real. Y'all have dropped the ball and you haven't been able to pick it up since. But y'all, all this does, do you feel safe with these folks in charge? I sure don't. I don't feel safe. I don't believe they make good decisions. I don't believe they can even make themselves safe at this point. How do they keep themselves safe? They can't. So, yeah, we're just going to have to be aware of our surroundings. And, if something don't feel right, then you take your butt back in the house. We're just going to have to use our own discernment because apparently the people running the show, they have no discernment whatsoever. None. Mm-mm. And I am not surprised. I'm just waiting over these next few weeks of more military bases saying they see these drones up in the air. Wow. And Donald Trump said, "Oh, no new wars. No new wars." That's right up there with George W. Bush, no new taxes, right? And both of them went back on their word. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. And don't forget, the 40% off sale at all of my stores will be on starting at midnight through the 27th. So, y'all have a wonderful day. And I hope to see you at my next live, which will be at 1:45. Shalom, family.